All right, cool. So this video, I'm not sure what I'm gonna call this one. I was just kind of sitting. I felt to make a video, but I had like so many ideas at once of things to speak about. So I don't know. I think these could all even be made into different videos, but I feel like I'm gonna just kind of mix and match them because I can't really decide right now exactly which topic. And as I said, one thing I've realized about myself, which I think it has even got me here, is that I just don't like being put in any box. I don't like to be only just this way or just that. Like, I just like to mix and match it all. So, but I think, yeah, once I get through it, touch all the topics, explain everything, I'll try and merge it together, and I'm sure I'll think of a good title. But yeah, so let me think. What's the first thing? All right, cool. So this was a funny thought that I had the other day. Is essentially this idea of the chosen ones. You know, like this idea of like this person was chosen, or like a prophet, or just the idea of being chosen by God. And yeah, even though there's many like atheists or just most people wouldn't believe in that concept, but there are some people who would believe in it, and then they might not think of themselves as being chosen, but they think, there's some other person who's chosen who's gonna show us the way or something, or they think that they themselves are chosen. And what I thought was so funny, this thought that I had is that it's very simple, but just that there are no chosen ones. There are no chosen ones. Chosen by whom? Chosen to do what? So, all right, cool. If you're gonna say chosen by God, like when you really like when you just really like what? So what was you chosen for then? See, like I know what I would refer to. Like if we was even gonna entertain the idea of what a chosen one was, yeah, I know exactly, very clear cut, and I can tell you what that would have to mean if you were gonna say that someone was chosen. But do you even know, like, what are you saying that you've been chosen for? And the trick is that these people will be very vague. They just think, oh yeah, I've been chosen by God to like do like have this like destiny or something, or it's very vague, but it's just got this kind of hue of like divinity and this special. It's always about special, being special. Really, that's what it is. It's like I am chosen, or I'm awake. I am like, you know what I'm saying, the thing. And then there's the other people out there who are just the bots and who are asleep. And you know what I'm saying, the masses and all of that. The Autobots and the Decepticons. And then like me, the special one, have been chosen for this special divine mission. And like it has to be done. And if it like this is the divine this kind of like idea of thinking. And I feel like it's strange because in my opinion, as I said, becoming awake or enlightened or spirituality, this whole journey and so on and so forth, I feel like that is a higher stage of development rather than just, as I said, just believing some kind of scripture, some kind of belief system, dogma, or just like, because science is, even though it is also, so as I said, that's more religion, and then science is also like you're checking more, but still you have to believe something and you have to build upon some assumption that you don't know is true, and then something's going to debunk that later, and it's just, you know what I'm saying, science is very good for pragmatism, like you can do stuff with it, you can use it, but it doesn't, like, just because I know how to use a lighter doesn't mean I know what the fuck it is, okay? So even though spirituality is in a sense a higher stage of development, this kind of chosen one, this kind of thing is even more susceptible. Like you're more susceptible to even believe that if you're kind of more in that spiritual kind of new age kind of category, to where you're kind of like, because as I said, in my eyes, when you really cut through to it and then you really get down to the core and then you realize it's just only about truth, then that's when you're like on the right path. But when you're, as I explained in those absolute truth videos, the triangle, as I said, with it begins at certainty, but then you're in certain falsehood, and then it's going more and more uncertainty, more. And as you go up the stages, there's less people there. Remember, that's like a triangle, and there's most of the people all at the bottom, and then certainty, but in certain falsehood, and then you rise up, and then like see, and even someone at this lower level, like they've just broken just above the thing, but they think, oh yeah, I'm at the top, I'm broken out the, like, but you're still just, you know what I'm saying, but as I said, you go up and up and up, and then it's more and more uncertain as you break down and debunk all of those kind of false assumptions, and then you kind of rise up, and then obviously at the peak, only then you come to certainty and truth. But as I said, most people on the spiritual path, they haven't even gotten to self-realization yet, because otherwise you would have already transcended spirituality. Spirituality is just an idea, it's just a tool. Again, like people, they start putting even spirituality, like holding it up, like start revering that, say, oh no, fuck religion, fuck this. Spirituality, that's the thing. Like, and then even spirituality, that's why I don't even like saying I'm spiritual or anything like this, because even that's getting all the wrong connotations now. People, you can say you're spiritual, one person, talking about crystals and this and that. Like, and I'm not even saying that crystals maybe don't have some kind of conditional effect, or they have some kind of, I'm not even like trying to like say that's wrong or anything like that, but it's just like what some people take to be spirituality and these things nowadays, it's almost ridiculous. So I don't really even try to kind of identify or kind of say it, you know what I'm saying, kind of sit on that side. But I had to go through that whole stage as well. But yeah, my whole point is that people who are more on the spiritual path, so you may even be a kind of a higher development, and you may even be very intelligent, like, and still like higher stages than the masses, and think that you're awake and you're a chosen one. But what I'm essentially saying is that even though your higher stages, this particular trap is even more of a trap for the higher stages. Obviously, like if you're really dogmatic and so on, you could also fall into this. But even people who can decipher all of those and see all of that, like, what gets trickier and trickier the higher you go in these stages of uncertainty and spiritual development is that the more you basically decipher and decode and you start seeing more and more and more, then the harder it gets for you to see what you can't see. Because you can see so much now in comparison to what it was before, and you can see so much in comparison to everyone else. So you kind of gain this kind of spiritual ignorance, and that's where spiritual ego happens. And the funny thing about spiritual ego is that every spiritual ego thinks that it isn't a spiritual ego. And everyone else will say, that person has a spiritual ego. That person, but me, I'm just here in truth, in the self, in consciousness as God, like the chosen one. At me, I'm completely unbiased. No biases over here. Like this kind of like train of thinking. So this is actually more of a trap for even higher development people, and it's a very tricky and so, like it's almost, you have to kind of imagine the higher stages you go, you gain more strength, more capacity, but you're gonna be versing higher level demons, and the demons aren't even really your opposition. They're just there to kind of like, God is kind of putting you in the cooker. And then you have two options when the pressure's on. You either crumble or you fucking shoot right up. So that's basically what God is doing. It's kind of closing the walls, and it's giving you a decision. And that decision is actually yours. You do have the capacity for that choice, and this is where we branch into some other, like, what is even life? And we're going to start speaking about the ego, all of these things. Like, think about it. Like, what separates someone who's we would refer to as alive and then someone who's dead? It's the capacity for choice, to choose this or that, to do this action, the capacity to respond. Really, people say that there's actions and reactions, but if you actually become more and more conscious, you'll realize And when you realize the truth of the absolute, the infinite, eternal, you realize that every single action is a reaction. There is no original actions. So every action is a reaction, and it's a response to something other than me, something other the world, or that person over there, something other than me. I'm responding to it, and then therefore I'm going to react. So it's the capacity for choice. That's why people, they think they don't want to work. They think they want to break out the matrix or get loads of money. Like, you don't even care about money. Why do you want money? Why do you want power? Why do you want fame, or this or that? Why do you want to escape the matrix? You want to have more choice, more influence on the external world, on that which is not you. You want more control over that which is not you. So when we say someone's powerful or a man of influence, what that means, right? That person, let's say there's a king and then he has his kingdom. That king is not his kingdom, but he is, and just because someone may sit at the peak of a hierarchy does not mean that they control every single thing. Certain people try to say, they can't be like some people at the top or elites, or there can't be like some person who's, or like some families, or like they say, like all those conspiracies, like there's no one like at the top or anything like that. Like there's no one who could control everything. Look, I'm saying this. Are you saying they're controlling that? No, I'm not saying that. No one has absolute control. That would only be God itself. However, that person at the top, and I'm not even saying that it's a particular person or a particular group, it's just it's systematic. It's not about the minutiae of this person or this. It's a systematic like structure. It's a mechanism. So it doesn't really matter who's at the top. That king will die and then there'll be another king. You know what I'm saying? We came from kings and now we think of this democracy and all of this. Anyway, let me think of my train of thought. I'm going to pause this one sec. I'm leading somewhere. Yeah, so essentially kind of what I was just trying to explain is that really there must always be a hierarchy. It doesn't matter if you're saying that that it's this person or it's that person. It doesn't matter who's at the top, or it doesn't matter who's the king. These things are roles, and we are actors in this play. What is an action? An action is an act. Every action is an act. Every action is a deviation. What does it mean to act? When you act, when you put on a mask, why do people say the ego is a mask? Because every action is not your truest state is non-action, because really you don't exist. So every action is just an act in the play. You're fulfilling your role. Everybody has a role. We're here playing. So the king is just a position, it's a particular role, an archetype. You could put this person who has a different personality, and this person who has a different personality, and this person who has a different personality. And yes, they might play the king differently, but they're gonna still feel the archetype in some kind of way. So the role even determines the way the actions plays out. Do you understand? Everything is there are no real. It's strange because there's actions, but there are really no actors. There's just many masks. Like there's just many like different characters. There's this character and that character, and we're here doing actions and all of this stuff, but all of that is an act. So the king, or this particular role, it doesn't matter who it is, but that person. There'll always be someone at the top of the hierarchy, because that's just how. Think about any structure, like a triangle. The thing about a triangle, even you see the triangle like with the eye and the symbol on the dollar note and all of these things, the OC and the eye and all of this stuff, because the triangle, it's like the most, it has the most integrity. It's like the most kind of solid structure with the minimal, like if you use the same materials, like you could build like some block thing and so on, but then you have to use steel, concrete and all of those things. But for the same material, like that's why you could even build like loads of a massive structure, even with just cards, a house of cards. But it'll always be like in a triangle, because with minimal thing, like it just, with no kind of like energy is like kind of required to kind of sustain. It's like the most efficient kind of form. And furthermore, think about, we've come from tribes, all of these things. There's always a tribe leader. Even we might say there's a democracy now, or there's a president or this or that. We might say we voted for them and all of these kinds of things. But and even I wouldn't even think that those people are really the people in control. Those are the people in the front. The power remains in the shadows. You don't see the decisions that are made. Like, just think, even in your own life, everything is a microcosm of the macrocosm. I explained all of this holism. So everything is kind of reflected back out. So that's why why do people take in astrology? Because those are the celestial bodies. Those are a larger macrocosm. Like, even, all right, cool, yeah, they may be smaller than God, the absolute, but that's the absolute. Even within the dream, there's still many more layers above us. So you could say the celestial bodies or the stars, that's another thing that we can look up to that and see, oh, like every time it's this season or this star is like this, we get this kind of energy. And then you can start to see it, because everything is refracted down, like it's like a, you know what I'm saying? This is a fractal. That's literally what it is. So you can look at something on the micro level and start to understand how things are on the macro level, and on the macro, understand things on the micro. And really, you need both to understand each other. This is why duality exists. This is why contrast exists. This is why existence exists. So it doesn't matter who's at the top. These are just roles, right? So it's a systematic thing. This is a structure. It's not about, and I'm not even saying that hierarchy is wrong. We just need to make it better than how it is now with capitalism. Because the way it is now, like, it's in such a way to where the people at the top can kind of, even though, as I said, in the ultimate sense, in eternity, all those people are even going to get collapsed anyway. But for now, in the relative plane, for like substantial amount of time, these people can create a certain kind of monopoly. The way the system is now, they can amass such amount of power to where they can just, any kind of opposition, they can pay them off. And then it's just like, it's just going to just keep on manifesting up. And then the people at the bottom is just going to, you know what I'm saying, just suck it all dry. Like, so that's kind of, so we just need to tweak the system a bit, but it will always be a hierarchy. So that's why socialism and all these things will never really work. Because think about it really, like, if everyone was completely equal, and even though I'm saying existentially everyone's equal, everyone's the same, everyone's the self or whatever, but even just because everyone's the same, and this is why competency and all these things matter, just because everything's equal and the same and fair, that doesn't mean that everyone should get paid the same. If you really think about it, it would be more fair for the person who's more competent, doing more things, providing more value for everyone else, to get more return. Because there needs to be some incentive. Why, like, if one person's working 1,000 hours and someone else is working 1 hour, is it fair to pay them the same then? If one person's doing like this, you know what I'm saying? Really, if you think about it, the real balance, see, balance doesn't just mean it's just split down the middle. Remember I said it's a dynamic balance. So every different condition, you have to measure it with zero, but you have to remember, it doesn't just mean you split it down the middle. This is not like some 2D. I'm talking about like 3D, 5D, 9D, 12D, infinite dimensions. This is really, just think this is just one field. And you think that this is 3-dimensional, but this is an infinite dimensional game. There's infinite dimensions. So, all right, cool. Yeah, and the main thing is that, as I said, no one, even the person at the top of the hierarchy, doesn't have absolute control. No. As I said, only God has absolute control, but even God really, because God is nothing, its absolute control is its absolute surrender. As I said, God doesn't have his hands on the wheel, because think about it. How could reality be the ultimate, like, utmost fair and the utmost unbiased? God creates it and then his hands off the wheel, free for all. The way it is the way it will be. It is what it is. Any kind of, like, I'm gonna make it this way. If God skewed it that way, had this preference and made it this way, good for these people and bad for these people, that would already be an imbalance, an asymmetry, it would be unrighteous. It would be, So essentially, God can't control, even though it has absolute power. It's like absolute control and influence, as I said, because at the peak is the collapse of all dualities. So its absolute power is, in a sense, is absolute surrender for power. It has no control. It doesn't control a single thing, but in a sense, it controls the whole existence and the whole universe. Do you understand? So if I identify with this body and I only say I only control this, then I've already limited myself to just this now, and then I've excluded the whole of existence. So this is where, like, with yogis and all these things, yes, like, and I heard this because as I said, I watch a lot of other people as well. This one was from Sadhguru, where he was saying, for example, that you could actually you can kind of not take over the world, but you could, because as I said, the desire is actually to become everything. You think, oh, you want more, and each, like, every time you think, oh, you want this, but then when you get there, you want something else, and so you're always trying to go up. But as I said, really, it's not trying to just get more, but you want to expand to everything. But the problem is you can't do that physically because everything physical is limited. Remember, you can't fill up an infinite space with finite objects. Think about it. This is what you're trying to do right now. You're in an infinite space and you're trying to fill it up. Like, you're trying to fill the gap. Like, why is in nature every single vacuum gets filled straight away? Because, like, that's the nature of, like, this relative plane. That's what I'm saying. The void is the void. Non-existence doesn't exist. So every gap, like, gets filled. But in eternity, what it is like there's an infinite space. And then you're thinking, oh, I just need more money. I just need more of this. You're trying to fill it up. You're trying to fill up this space. Like, imagine an infinite warehouse. You're trying to fill it up with more and more products, trying to make it full, like 100% full. It's like that. I think there's even a paradox about that. Like the infinite hotels. If there was an infinite, like, there was infinite rooms, but then imagine you had infinite guests. And really what I'm saying is, yes, like, there would be infinite rooms, and even if there was infinite guests, the rooms still wouldn't be filled because those infinite guests would get filled with the infinite rooms and there'll always be infinite more. So this is what you don't understand. Like, infinity is itself. You can't get more infinite than infinite. You can't say, like, infinity squared is larger than infinity, because infinite squared is infinity itself already. So this is why is, like, and as I said, infinity is zero. Remember? Infinity is equivalent to zero. So why is everything you times by zero is equal to zero? It doesn't matter if there's 100 zeros or 1,000,000 zeros or 1,000,000,000 or 1,000,000,000,000. If you times 1,000,000,000,000 by zero, it's still zero. So that's why I said one has to equal to one. Like there has to be the unit first, and only then when you multiply that, then there's something. Like when you say there's 563, that doesn't mean anything. All you're saying is there's 563 units, ones, because that's all that there is. There's one. If you're saying there's two, you're saying there's two ones, units. Remember, so this whole relative plane is made out of units. It doesn't matter what you think it is, atoms or this or that. Like, it just is just that. That is the the ground bottom up. Like, and really that is already the first condition. That's not absolute. That's already secondary. But everything within the dream, like you can only see this from outside, but within the dream already, like, it's only from outside of the dream where you can start to see the whole mechanism of it. Like, for example, why do people have therapists? Or why is it easier to see someone else's problems rather than your own? But then when you're trapped in a problem, it's hard to see your own biases and your own dislikes. Because, like, even if you're in a room, they even say, like, if you sit and shit in a room, like, let's say you're sitting there in the toilet and you just had a shit and you're sitting in there, like, you're not even going to be able to smell it because you're so close to it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's only when you go out of the room and then come back in. So, certain times you'll be in a shit situation, like, but you're so close to it, you can't even see it. That's what I was saying before you're like a fish in water. So you need to kind of, like, only from the outside you can look back. So read the Matrix is fucked because you're inside it. You're trapped inside it. You don't know how to get outside of it. But you can only really escape or decipher it from the outside, but you have to get outside first. But you don't know how to do that. And it's just a very tricky paradox. So this is what I'm saying. There's a high level stuff that we're speaking. First, it sounds simple and all of this and that, but it took years for me to even come to a level now to where I can even articulate this. Like there's certain things that I was able, which I had realized years before. Like I'll explain my whole journey fully later. But I would say, like, for example, as I said, I'm turning 25 literally this month. I first heard of the concept of enlightenment and where I would say I began my journey. But as I said, I always had an epistemological drive and just this drive to know. I wanted to know. That was like my main drive. I just wanted to understand. If you're like this, then you can get this. But like but you probably wouldn't have even been watching this to this point if you don't have that. But yeah. So it was always clear to me that both ways didn't make sense to me. It didn't make sense that everything is so ordered, so like even though there may be chaos and a bit of order, but everything functions so perfectly. Look at like if you just look at biology or you look at fucking chemistry or you look at some fucking ecosystem and the way everything is just like it's a perfect precision, mathematical, quick. Like it's just so ordered. Like this isn't like, and this is where people they look. If you haven't been in certain states of consciousness, you look around and you think that this is like some chaotic world. Like, like there's certain states of consciousness that are so chaotic. Like this is like chaotic, but this is even still relatively stable. Like I'm still in the same room, this is still like everything's changing, but it's still like relatively stable. Like, but I've experienced states of consciousness that are so uncertain. Like, imagine not even being sure if the next moment you will exist the next moment. Like right now, you're so certain that you will still exist because you already have these anchors. You think, oh, I'm this human on earth, and you like believe on all these grounds, even though all these grounds are false, but still you have them. Like it doesn't matter if I told you, like you have to decipher this yourself, which will take years and so on and so forth. Actual realizations, direct hits, like not even just understanding this theoretically, because first you have to understand theoretically, then like it sinks more like to the subconscious on the heart level, and then like it has to be in your bones. It has to be so deep that this isn't like something you learn and remember and you might forget. No, like a real awakening, once it's seen, it can never be unseen. Like that's really the true difference, that like no matter, you could try to forget, like it's just impossible because there's no state that's not that. There's nothing that could basically debunk that, because it is the thing that like everything is just like it's just that. So I keep on going on tangents and stuff, but it's very difficult. As I said, it's just a branch, the tree. But yeah, like my main thing is, as I said with the hierarchy, is that the person at the top doesn't have absolute control over anyone else. Like absolute control, that's only God. But as I said, absolute control is no control. So in a sense, if you were to speak about influence, that person does have more like influence than God, in a sense that has no control, even though it has lower. But like, as you remember, because as you has like zero, like you have everything. But then the moment you incarnate and take a particular like limit or whatever, that you can make that thing really as big, you know what I'm saying, almost at zero, but there's always going to have to be a blind spot for you to even, like, you always have to be at least 1% in thing, because otherwise you wouldn't exist. You would merge back into just truth itself. And remember, as I told you, to even have an experience, why does this exist? To even have that gap? Because this is what I'm saying, in these self-realization, in these absolute states, there's not even a gap or space for perception. There's no subject or object or time or distance. It's just onto itself. It's kind of, as I said, it's like kind of like, imagine like what you would imagine was before the Big Bang, or like imagine like you went to sleep and you slept forever. Like what you imagine death is just pure nothingness. Like even whatever you imagine, it's not that, because that's already a thing. But I'm just trying to give you some. Oh yeah, I was even thinking of some funny. But yeah, no wait. Let me just finish this bit first. What I'm saying is that the person, like that, people in the hierarchy. Like, I'm not speaking about spiritual hierarchy here, but I'm just speaking about influence and control. And like, oh, like let's say like the king, like acts like there could be a spiritual person who, or an awakened, self-realized person who is way more, but that's what I'm saying, like what that means is you're escaping out of the hierarchy now. So like really you are at the point where you have absolute control, but really you have no control. But then like physically, externally, like people, like everyone else, the consensus reality, the bots and so on, they're going to say, oh, look, that king, like he's above you. Like that king is above that like homeless, like fucking yogi guy. Like he's been sitting there for 20 years and that, like the wise man, but he's just like some peasant or something. Like he's lower than the king. But then I remember what I said, everything, it depends on what you're measuring. But here we're measuring with like influence on like the external world and so on and so forth. And as I said, the spiritual path is in a sense relinquishing all of that, relinquish that, like no, nothing. And through just all of that relinquishing, you gain the whole universe. You sacrifice everything. Remember, I was speaking about exchange and everything. So to get everything, you must sacrifice everything. There can't be anything remaining left. And deep down, you know this. That's why you're scared to jump off that cliff. You're standing on the edge, like, but you don't want to jump, do you? So, like, because, like, you want to basically see, but you want it, like, you still want to be there to see it. But that's what I'm saying. No one can see this. In the absolute, there's only the seen. like, I was even thinking, like, for example, with the chakra system, yeah? Obviously, the lower stages is very basic. Like, oh, yeah, like the lowest ones, like food and sleep. And then, like, the sacral chakra, you could kind of say is like creativity, but, like, more about sexual energy, like creation. You know what I'm saying? Generation with your genitals. So even with semen retention, I can speak about that as well. Retaining your sexual energy so you can, you know what I'm saying, generate, keep your energy, keep your charge, all of this kind of stuff. But yeah, so that's, and then obviously here's more action and then so on and so forth. And people will say with the heart, like, you know what I'm saying, love, all of these kinds of things. Obviously, I'll have to even make another video on that. That's what I'm saying. All of these could have been their own videos, but I'm just merging it all into one again. And then, but where it really gets, like, obviously, where it really gets, like, see, this is kind of like, remember how I said the cross? And this is like the Christ, you know what I'm saying? Something above you, something below you. You have the heavens and you have the hells. You have left, I'm saying the wrong, the right, all of this kind. So really, people, like the spiritual people, all of that, a lot of people, they just only want to be up here. That's your problem. All right, cool. And first, yeah, you do have to get to that. But really, the real is when you, I'm not saying, resting in the heart is higher than here or anything like that. But to even truly be resting in the heart, you have to still like kind of have access to the above to be like fully balanced in the, you know what I'm saying, having the heavens and the hells, your lower, you know what I'm saying. And I'm not even saying that the hell is low, is like really lower or less true. It's just, this is just the way it is, okay? But where it really gets serious is like, for example, here, the throat chakra, this is expression, because remember, everything is a communication. Like, even just language is a form of communication, but we can communicate without language. We can communicate without language. This is obvious. So everything really is a communication. So, like, getting to this chakra, you have more of a, you can just communicate truth directly, like, and it can just slice right through. So that's like that capacity. And then here, the third eye, what's that? Like, what does it mean to open the third eye? Really, like, the third eye is just seeing it for what it is. Essentially, the third eye is like being able to see everything that can be seen. I would almost kind of put as opening the third eye, you could almost kind of put synonymous with enlightenment or awakening. And then when I explain the crown, that's more like pure self-realization. So this is seeing everything that can be seen. So literally anything that you can see it. And as I said, this isn't about like the minutiae details or anything, but it's just everything that can be seen, like the whole picture. You just see the whole picture. You see it so clearly. No distortions, nothing. That's the third eye. And at this point, like, you have to even collapse the ideas of having senses. Like, I have my like my hearing sense, my thing sense. Like, at this point, you just have to realize it's just only just one sense. There's only one eye. Like you don't have two eyes. There's just only one vision. There's only just one field. And there's different fluctuations of feelings. And then you might label that. See, this is where I'm going to get into the ego and the narration and the soundtrack and how everything is like the narration is secondary. Like you get the appearance and then you get the label, which is secondary. Slap, put that into a box. That's what that is. Oh, what's that? See, because remember, we're in. Why is it called mysticism, spirituality? Why is it magic, magisterial? Like, what's so amazing about wonder? The mystery. Because this can never be solved. So, and that's its nature. And that's not like a problem. Like, it can never be solved. But the mind, all the mind knows is trying to solve stuff. Label it, put it in a box. What's that? Like, so anytime you don't understand it, you will just slap a label on it, put it on a box. That's what that is. That's that. This, like, this color, that's red. Red, that's what that is. So there, when you say, oh, like, what's that? Then all you have to do, oh, that's red. You fill in the blank. You have a label, placeholder to fill in the blank, say, oh, yes, I know it. That's what red is. So now you don't have to actually look and recognize that you don't know what the fuck this like sensational disappearance is. You don't really know what the fuck red is. You can see it. You can maybe use it. Oh, I made a red t-shirt. Doesn't mean that you know what the fuck red is. You don't know what red is. Okay. So like at this point you can see everything that can be seen, and this is where you just realize, oh, it's just all this eternal here now moment. Consciousness, like this field. There's no bounds. Like think about, like just look at your consciousness right now. Where is the edge? Where does your consciousness end? Like actually try to find the boundary. Where does your consciousness end? And then, as I said, so at this point you've already collapsed the idea of even having set like 5 senses or forms, whatever. You just realize, oh no, there's just only just the field, the 0 point, and then just the fluctuations, infinite different variations of fluctuations. One thing appears to be this, one thing appears to be a taste, or a sound, or a touch. But these are just different vibrations, sensations. Like, they have no inherent meaning. It's just an appearance. It's only the mind, the ego, which comes in a label, slaps it on and say, oh, that's what that is, which means this, which means that, and I can use this for this. See, and then it's already reinforcing itself in the house of cards. So, yeah, and then the crown chakra, in a sense, this sounds paradoxical, and it is, but at that point, you can see the unseen. You can see what you can't see. And that sounds paradoxical, that sounds impossible. And to the logical mind, yeah, it's fine. It doesn't matter what you think about it. But that's what it is. At that point, like at this point, you can see everything that's seen, but you still can't see what you can't see, basically. So like you can kind of see like 99% almost, but there's just that, like it just still can't see itself. Like it can see everything but itself, if you get what I'm saying. So this is where even a lot of spiritual enlightened people, they even get trapped. They think they're done, but they're denying that one speck of blind spot left. They can't find it. It's like the solidity gets less and less. So like before it was easy, you thought, oh yeah, it's just this. Alright, well, you can easily see I'm not this. Then you can easily see, oh, I'm not my thoughts or I'm not my emotions or whatever. But then you easily think it's not this and that. But then like it gets more and more subtle. Like it's like trying to find the needle in a haystack. And then at a certain point, you might even think the needle doesn't exist, but it does, absolutely. So. Yeah. So as I said, yeah, the people at that. So yeah. So and the whole reason why I said that is because someone who's really like self-realized or actualized or at this kind of level, like they are outside of the triangle now. So like they can see the whole thing. They can understand the whole thing. It's not about like me. Like this is another thing that like. Is it really winning to win a losing game? Like if you're playing a losing, like if it's a losing battle, but you're winning at a losing game, like is that really a win? Like if we say, Like victory is this way. like failure is this way. And then like you're going this way, but you're going the furthest. You're in first place, but going in the wrong direction. Is that a victory? That's absolute defeat. Even though obviously there's no absolute defeat, but you get what I'm trying to explain to you now. Like people, they think they're so good, like escaping the matrix, and then they think escaping the matrix is getting like, more money, more models, and this and that. Look at my models and my money and my flashy thing. I've escaped the matrix. You're the deepest in the matrix. You've just like, there's no words for this kind of stuff. Like, but obviously the whole reason why people even want all of that money and all them things, as I said, like, it's cool to want all of that. I'm not saying getting money, but really, why do you want that? It's for the influence, the choice. That's all it is, really. It's not even like you're not even really suffering at work. You're not really suffering, like, you're not really suffering like that. It's not that mad. Like, all your circumstances, like, it could be way like worse. And even certain times, yeah, people use this reasoning, yeah. Sorry, I keep on going on so many tangents, but I said it was going to be like this. This is a freestyle video. This is just me being authentic. Certain times people kind of use this reasoning, right? Of like, like, let's say you're in a terrible situation. So I'm not trying to say, just complain or whatever, but like, let's say you're in a terrible situation, yeah? Certain people say, like, shut up, man, just be grateful, like, it could be way worse, like, like that guy in Africa, or that guy, I think he doesn't even have clean water. And I'm there thinking, alright, cool, yeah, that's true, but is this like what we're using to measure now? Like, is this how low our aspirations become to where like, just because, yeah, there's someone who has it worse than you, that doesn't mean like that you don't, that doesn't mean that you have it good. You know what I'm saying? Yes, alright, cool by comparison, but like, alright, cool, if I'm there zapping you with like 300 volts on an electric chair or something like that, and then I put it up to 400 volts, and you're there suffering and complaining, and then I'm just there like, shut up, man. And because I've got someone else here, and they're on 4,000 volts. So forget about your pain. It's invalid. This person has more. Like, what kind of reasoning is that? It's so just like, nah. Like, I'm sorry. Like, it's just like sometimes the stupidity I see is just, it's insane to me. But yeah, let's see. Where was I leading with this? So, yeah, so like but even that person who's realized they're still going to be incarnated or attached to a body unless they've let go of the body, but as long as they're still remaining in the body, someone else is going to still label them like everyone else, even though the awakened or the enlightened person knows that I'm not this, everyone else still thinks you're that. They're still saying you are labeling your names. You know what I'm saying? So, and even that person, enlightened person, let's say they're homeless or they're just some normal, like they just sell vegetables or something like that. And then someone will say they're lower on the hierarchy, but then remember, what are you using to measure? Here where like those people, they renounce the influence on the thing, but really they're actually above even the king. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying all the peasants, but I'm just saying if you've actually realized all of this, you know what I'm saying? Like, essentially, transcending the pyramid doesn't mean being at the top of it, basically, kind of like. Even though I am saying, like yeah, you're sitting on the peak, but really you want to even transcend the whole dream. That's what I'm saying. Like, spirituality and that is kind of like, see, like you can kind of do it like physically through external objects and materiality. That's kind of like material. That's where people say, like they escaped the matrix, they're at the top, the elite, the people with the most money are the elite. Those aren't even the elite. They're like max bots. They're the maximum bots of life. Like, it's just that their delusion is so grand, but you're already pre-programmed into delusion, so you're using delusion to measure. So you think, he made $1 trillion. Like, he's an elite. Like, that's such high value. But like that person is the utmost level of greed. Like, greed is cancer. Do you realize that cancer, like, what is cancer? Cancer is the multiplication. It's pure, like literally cancer is just the manifestation, the micro manifestation of greed. This is what we are doing as humans. We're sucking the earth dry of all this resource. We're just becoming a cancer, just multiplying. Everything just sloth, gluttony, everything's just, we're just doing all the 7 deadly sins. But now, because everything's inside out, the devil's taken over. Now we're there revering the thing. We're saying what's bad is good, and what's good is bad. Like what's left is right, and what's up is down. Like everything's inside out. So you don't even know where the fuck to orient yourself. One isn't even one anymore. You see? So now you're lost, trapped in the matrix. Don't know what to believe. That's why I told you there's no appearance that you can believe. Not even me. Okay? So I kind of explained the hierarchies and how, so like you could do it physically, and then say, oh, like they're like that. And then you can say like, oh, using their material wealth, they have more influence on the external world. So you can say that at the top of the hierarchy and they have the most power or influence. But they might not be the most enlightened or awake. In fact, those positions are going to attract the most unconscious people. That's the fact thing about our current system. And why there needs to be some kind of checks on like, it has to remain a hierarchy, but there needs to be some kind of checks the way it can't just, you know what I'm saying, just get siphoned up. Like it has to kind of get redistributed in like it still has to be balanced. So that's on the physical level, but then you could also say on the spiritual level of attaining truth. Then like spirituality being at the peak of that is like kind of understanding like all of this kind of stuff, like the third eye, seeing everything that can be seen kind of. And then in that sense, you might be above, like in spiritual understanding, this person, this king or something. But then if you're measuring with external like influence, they're still above you. You know what I'm saying? So it all like there's different hierarchies and it depends on what you're kind of measuring. But there's always hierarchies. And my main point as well is that even the person at the top never has absolute control, but in comparison to everyone else, they have more power than them. So like, let's say the person at the top has 50% control of everything. And then like his two main like senior advisors, like they control 25%. So then them three together already control 75% of the whole thing. But still neither of them have absolute. And then the people below that, like 5%. And then like at the people at the very bottom, like 0.00001%. It doesn't mean they don't have no influence, but it's basically, what's the word? It's negligible. Negligible influence. You do have influence. Like you did go to work and do that thing. But did it really influence anything? Like it was literally like he was a cog in the machine. You see? So yeah, so that's kind of the hierarchies. And then back to like kind of the chosen ones. Like what would you even say is a chosen one? And then you're saying like, oh, like God like chose me for this divine mission to do whatever. Like what is it actually really? What was you? Because I'm not even, there could be chosen one, but it's just what I'm essentially saying is that the chosen one, this idea of being a chosen one, like you see that video, chosen ones, like your time is now, like you need to do this, chosen ones, like if you're a chosen one and you're watching this video, the chosen ones, like this and that, like who is that appealing to? That can't appeal to the real self. That can only appeal to the ego, like, which is gonna think, see now, because as I said, think about all the wars, the holy wars. Think about all the wars and all the treachery that's been done in God's name, even though it wasn't really God, what I was saying, because remember, the map's not the territory. So everyone, what they were saying, oh my God, or this God, or whatever God they were saying, it wasn't actually the God. But still they was using that God in his name, the label, the box of God. God wills it. Even the other day I watched Kingdom of Heaven. You should watch that film. That film is fucking lit. When you stand before God and you say, I was told by others to do thus, or that the conditions were not convenient at the time, this will not suffice. Like I can't lie, that guy there, nah, he was a legend, the Leper King and Salahuddin and them, man. Nah, that film is fucking legendary. But even all of those holy wars, because even what makes them legendary, what made them kind of like, even though I'm not saying that Salahuddin and these men were enlightened or nothing like that, but still, you can still kind of tell, like, yes, all they was kind of like the circumstances led them to kind of have this battle. I don't want to spoil too much, but led them to have this battle and all of this kind of stuff. But you can tell that both of them they kind of already, like, for them to even have been the king, like, they kind of understood way more. Like, they knew, like, they didn't even really care about the war. They both wanted peace. They both respected each other, but it was their people behind them and, like, all the, like, the belief in my God and this and that and the history and the injustice and everything, and like, like, you lot slayed our people from before, so we have to balance out the scale, all of this kind of stuff. So they kind of knew all of that, and like, their hands were almost tied. But just watch that that movie and you'll see, kind of like, that movie is legendary still. So yeah, like, really, if you're saying you're chosen, it depends what you're saying you're chosen for. Like, you can say, yeah, I was chosen, but I was chosen to work in Starbucks, or I was chosen to make YouTube videos. Like, really, was that what I was chosen for? God was like, he chose me. He's like, and just think about how many ants exist? How many grains of sand? How many fucking microorganisms? How many fucking giraffes and animals? There's infinite different animals. There's infinite different organisms. There's infinite different planets. Like, fucking, like, so you're already being biased to, like, everything you are is bias. It's just pure bias. Like, you're even being biased to, like, it's just, like, you don't even register. You're just not on the register. Like, really, as I'm saying, there is an absolute register which records all, but the only way that can be possible is in a sense that there is no register. Because remember, in the absolute all, everything collapses. So the only way for everything to be completely balanced is if there is no register, and everything is just always onto itself, just completely balanced. Even though it may seem bad, but it just can never not be that. It could just never not. Like, so... yeah, like, what I would say, because remember I told you, like, if we're going to even entertain the idea of chosen ones, what does that mean? It means, essentially, it means he was incarnated into this form, this microcosm, like this form, this limitation. Even though it's not you, you incarnated into this. For what purpose? Remember, what was the highest? What's the highest purpose? It's only to spread truth. Truth, that's it. And that's another video I was going to speak about, how truth is impersonal and why competence is paramount. Because competence means you're aligned with truth. You can only be competent, like, you can't do the wrong method and get the right result. If you, and there might be some exceptions, but really, on the long term, if you do it consistently, you take a large enough, like, you know what I'm saying, data sample, and you really, like, test it thoroughly. Like, you have to do the right thing to get the right result. You can't do the wrong thing all the time to get the right result. Because if you did that, then it was the right thing to do. Do you understand? Like, so it's just like, once you start to get these things, life just makes so much sense. Right action, right result. See, now I don't need to tell you, like, there doesn't need to be a God that's going to judge you or put you into hell or something. It's just that, just by definition, just the way the scale works, the way life works, if you do the wrong things are going to happen back. And it's not even like God's there punishing you. You did it to yourself as an incarnation of God, as the Son of God, in God's image, which even you really are God, but just as you're in this form, you're limited. Like, you've excluded 99% of yourself to incarnate as this 0.001%, and as you're here, you're doing, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So really, a chosen one is only, all you're hearing, like, what's a sermon? What is a satsang? That's like what yogis will say. Like, they'll have like a you know what I'm saying, a get together, and then they'll speak about certain topics like satsang or a sermon, or even the Bible. Like, I don't want to get too deep into it, but like, it's only about truth. It's a communication of truth. If it's not true, then it's not really a sermon. Then it's a pseudo. Do you understand? It's not really, that's all that it is. Like, what does it mean to say you're a man of God? Like, to me, people think, oh, I'm a man of God. Like, I'm religious. I pray. Like, it does not matter how many times you pray to your, like, I'm not saying that God doesn't exist, but whatever God you're praying to is an imaginary God. You imagined it. Who created, like, did God create us or did we create God? Did the chicken come first or did the egg come first? So you start to see the groundless nature of it. Like, there was no beginning. It's acausal. It never began. It never will end. We're in eternity right now. There's no limits. There's nothing outside of the absolute to limit it. So there doesn't even need to fucking be an egg to create a chicken. Like, that is already only when you're already subscribed to the limitations of the dream, which is within it, which is conditional, which, like, can be there or cannot be there. It's not primary. It's not ultimate. It's not fundamental. So it doesn't matter what you believe or disbelieve. I'm going to get into heaven by believing in this God. Like, I just need to believe and have faith. Remember, I already told you, you can only believe something you don't know. Like, is that really noble? To just be adamant, no matter what you say, like, no, I'm just going to believe in the book. Like, just, like, who's giving it power? Who, like, the idea of God, like, is that really there? Like, did that God, like, create you, or did you even create that idea of God? And I'm not even saying that, like, the absolute isn't actually here and that you're not, but, like, still, like, every idea, remember, the map is not the territory. So everything you think of God, everything you think is God, it's not God. It's, by definition, it's not that. Or you could say it's that, but there's the smallest bit. And then you're saying, like, are you saying like God's, like, pinky toe, like his neck is like a fraction of his toenail? Like, that's the whole of God. Is that what you're trying to say, basically? And you're praying to that. Like, so, like, doesn't matter how many times you pray a day. It doesn't fucking matter how much you believe or what you disbelieve or believe or what faith or this or that. None of that has anything to do with being a man of God. It's the only true measurement is, are you a man of truth? And remember, as you're in this form, because even this is a falsehood, so no one's going to get to perfection. Remember, I said everything in this plane is incomplete. The rule of incompleteness. It will never get there because you can't fill a space with, no matter how much we go, how infinite we go. We've been here for eternity, just going into new frames, but it will never end because there's always infinite more. So, like, it's incomplete. You can't fill the infinite space. Like, just think of an infinite room. It has no bounds. Like, how could you fill it up? Like, you could fill it up with just quadrillion squared gabillion. Like, it's just not going to fill it up. There's always going to be more space, more gaps to fill. So it's incomplete. It never ends. Right? So it doesn't matter what you believe, what you disbelieve, how many times you pray. It's only about truth. And so the whole reason why I even said that is because even if you're at the, like, remember in the triangle, like, you could really on your ultimate self level be transcended, but your body is still going to be here and it's still going to have to hold on to some limitations to even remain alive. So even if at that point you kind of, in the spiritual sense, you might be sitting on the peak, even though in the material sense or whatever, you might be like, or you could even be at the peak. You could be good financially. I mean, like, you don't have to fucking be some homeless guy to be spiritual. Like, that's another fucking false idea. I feel obviously, as I said, you don't need to go into greed, cancer. Remember, you don't go into that. But remember, it's all about balance. But this whole idea of, like, I'm just like the less you have, like just being like some fucking peasant, and only then I can be like spiritual. Like, even that's false. Like, you can be rich and be enlightened, in my opinion. If you aren't identified with your riches, you just see it's just an addition to me. It's an accumulation onto me. Like, that's there. It's not me. Like, you recognize, oh, I had 50 million. Now, like, some crazy thing, the stock market crashed. Now I only have 20 million. And then you just look, and then, like, you recognize your emotions, everything that's not you is fluctuating, feeling mad, and then you just realize, but wait, nothing changed. Nothing real changed. Nothing like just check. Like, wait, did anything change? Like, no, it's still just here now. This moment, the same moment it's always been. Nothing changed. Like when you just really look, everything in this field changes indefinitely, but there's an underlying sense of equilibrium, of eternity, of just sameness. And that's really what you refer back to yourself. Like, that's what makes you think that, oh, I'm still the same me. But like, you think that's just, oh, like, that's just because this is still the same body. But it's nothing even to do with this body. It's just actually the eternal self, like the eternal body, the selfless, like self, like the formless form, like that thing that's always there, the eternity, unchanging. So yeah, and even if you are a man of God, whilst you're still in this incarnation, you're never going to be perfect. So you could be aligned with truth, but then like you still might have like one addiction or something, or you still might have done one thing that's wrong. Like you're never going to achieve perfection, but it's just about like, you know what I'm saying, as far you try to reach the highest capacity that you can. And then obviously it's also in comparison to everything else. So like no one's going to be in 100% truth. Otherwise, as I said, you'll be merged with God itself. The formless, you wouldn't even have a form, but you could be like very close. So, and even if your body, because you can even get to a certain point or stage of realization, and but your body and your ego structure, like it will take time to even catch up, to even like, you know what I'm saying, like, because this happens outside the time, but then like for your body to even adapt, like it actually does go through like kind of visceral changes slowly, like you even begin to hold the body different, like you're way more relaxed, stable, like it's not the same anymore. You start to realize before, like you had tensions you didn't even know, like tensions that made you feel like you're this body, like you weren't even aware of it, like, and then you become way more aware, self-aware. What's consciousness? What's raising consciousness? The ability for truth to recognize itself, recognize, remember it together back to what it was originally. Okay. So if you're saying you're a man of God, what that means is you're a man of truth, and not even of course, like by definition that means conditional truths as well, because you're gonna have to still be alive, so you have to kind of be righteous on the conditional part. But that's never gonna be stuck. When in terms of the conditional world, that's always gonna be dynamic. Every single because remember, every situation you're in, like you have to realize, cool, this may be similar to this, but realize this situation you're in is a unique situation, because remember, existence is uniqueness. So that's why the whole idea is chosen one. Oh, I'm unique, I'm special. Everyone's special. You have to be special or unique to even exist. Okay? So everything is divine. And if everything's divine, then nothing's divine. So, so this whole thing of being unique, right? Hey, where was my train of thought there? One sec. Yeah, so every single situation you're in, like this situation I'm in right now, is completely unique. No one in the world has ever experienced this but me, as the self. So myself as the self, that's the same self as you. That self that's there, that's the same self. Different angles. There's different characters playing different roles. This role of Nathaniel and that role of you, whoever you are. But it's still the same self. Okay? But even though it's the same self and it's always the same and it will always remain the same, the unchanging witness, you could kind of speak, the formless consciousness, whatever incarnation you're in is experiencing something completely new, completely unique. So it might be similar to some other thing. Your parents might say, oh, you should do this. Well, I remember I had to try and solve that. And the way I had done it was like this. And then it might work for you, but even what worked for them might not necessarily work for you. Because remember, it's complete. You think that but everything is unique. You've never experienced this in your life. This frame here right now, right here. Like this is completely new. You've never been here before. And you will never be here again. Like, remember, you're just like, everything is just always passing. Like, think about time, yeah, the second. Like how long is the present moment? How long is it? Is it 1 second or a millisecond, or like how much is that unit of time? That, like, you know, the mini hand like goes tick tick tick, like how long is the present moment until it's on to the next? Like how long is this moment until it's on to the next moment? You see how it's direct? There's not even time. There's not even space or gap. It's already on to next, on to next. It's even the same thing. It's not even different things, even though it's changing and fluctuating. That's why people say consciousness is a shapeshifter, dancing shiver, that which is not. And you can never kill it because it was never alive. It's neither alive nor dead. It neither exists nor doesn't exist. It's neither up nor down, this or that, right or wrong, or even true or false. But even obviously, that's like the pinnacle of the spirituality. But that's like the pinnacle when you're still within the triangle, and then self-realization is even transcending even the triangle. So yeah, so in the relative plane, your balance, your analysis, your self-reflection of how to handle this situation or this is always going to have to be dynamic, a dynamic balance. You're going to have to use your intuition here, now. You can't use some stuck formula from the past. Oh, like he just did that. Like that thing might not work anymore. It's always fresh, new. You know what I'm saying? So how can you even start to attain to some of these truths as well? A simple thing that helps me a lot is you have to develop the capacity. Everyone, like, because think, right now, we're always, as I said, because this is always new, right? So people might say, they might use their labels and their grounds. Like, oh, this is, we're on Earth. We're still on Earth. Like, this is 2024. That's the year, 2020. Really? This is 2024? People know that's an arbitrary number. It doesn't fucking mean anything. And it still gives them a sense of security. Like, oh yes, we're in 2024, not 2023. Like, so you see what it give you a ground to make you feel like you're somewhere. Like, I'm here, not there. Remember I told you you're nowhere in particular. What is nothing? Nothing doesn't mean the black void, because that's something in particular. Nothing is nothing in particular, which is all things. Everything is nothing in particular. That's why everything and infinity is the same. That's why zero, like the infinity symbol, is just zero with a twist. So you have to essentially as I was saying, we're always in a new unique situation. So really, yeah, you might try to deny it, feel like, oh yes, I'm certain, I know what it is. And remember, I was telling you, every time you have that, you're kind of blocking it. And those are all your beliefs, your faiths, those boxes, blocks. Because even this is another analogy, yeah? This where, because remember, so you always have the scale, and then this where some spirituality people, they get kind of, as I said, because this particular trap of the chosen ones is like, even some lower people might not even fall into that, but they're not even, that doesn't even mean they're above them, but it's just, they're just even slow level, they can't even recognize this trap yet. So there's certain traps that even only get activated at the highest levels. There's only certain demons that only awake when they realize, oh, like shit, that guy's gonna escape the matrix. We've got to send the real heavy hitters now. So yeah, so and the tricky thing about spirituality is that one of the cool things about spirituality is this idea that you don't believe anything. And that's true. Remember I was saying, like, you can only believe something you don't know. But then, as I said, and then people, they'll get more awake, and then they'll see more, and then they'll realize, oh, like, I don't believe in science, I don't believe in this, and then they'll see more and so on and so forth. But then they even start to gain the identity of someone who doesn't believe anything, and then they won't be able to see their own beliefs. And then they'll say, I don't believe anything, I don't have any beliefs. But then you believe that you don't have any beliefs. So what I want you to understand here is that really what the mind is, like, it's an energetic, like, it's trying to grasp and understand, like, put it in a box, like, is this? I hold it, I have it, I understand it. Like that fleeting thing, like, really, you see it, You can see it and not try and understand it. Like come to a state of consciousness, you can see something and not even register it. Like you're not actually even paying attention. Like this is complete meditation. You're just not even registering nothing at all. And then you can switch on, like zone back in, register everything, record everything. Which certain people, they're doing that so subconsciously, they don't even realize. I remember when I was young, I used to even just happen naturally. Like I used to zone out, and people used to think, they used to label, like say I was just daydreaming. But then, and I used to think, oh, like, yeah, I must be daydreaming, right? But then I even realized, no, like, oh, later on when I realized meditation, I realized certain things, then I realized like, I wasn't actually daydreaming because I wasn't thinking of anything. It's just that I wasn't aware of the external world. I was just aware onto itself, just aware of awareness. But I wasn't even thinking. I wasn't even daydreaming. Certain times I was, but even think about it. Even when you're daydreaming, think these are certain thought experiments. Even when you're daydreaming, like you're, when you get wrapped in that dream, like you're really there, like you're seeing it, like where did the world go? Where did the world, the physical world, like when you're in that daydream or you're having that, like, and you're really like, where did the world go? I used to even think about these things when I was young, like from young. I've been on this journey from young. So, like, where did the world go? And then when you zoom back into the world, where did that thought go? You see how like there's only one space. It can only be one thing at a time. It can only be a black controller or a white controller. And so that's kind of what meditation is. It's just awareness onto itself. Like you're aware of yourself, but you're not even paying attention to anything external to the self. Because anything that you can see, this is what the neti method is. Like anything that you can perceive, like think about it. If you're the subject and there's an object, like you can only see something what's not you. Like the subject can't be the object. But then that's where, like, that's on all the lower planes. But even at the top, that's where actually the subject is the object. That's what separates God from everything else. Because everything else, like, supports everything else, like, and reinforces it. And like, oh, like, I need to see this for it to be blue and so on and so forth. But like, at the absolute, there is no one seeing blue. Like, there is no object seeing blue. Blue is just blue. It is blue. No one needs to look. It's just there. It's blue. It's blue. It's blue. You don't need to look at it for it to be there, for it to be blue. Like this appearance right now, this video, you think that you're watching it. No, no one's watching this. No one's watching this. Where is this? What is that video? What am I saying? I'm not saying anything. What is this? This is nothing in particular. You think it's this thing? No, this is nothing in particular. That's nothing. It's void, a vibrant void. It moves, it oscillates. It may seem this way for what part of it, then that, look, as one thing rises, another thing falls. This is the credit and debt. Remember, everything's just on lease. It's just a shapeshifter. It has no particular form. That doesn't mean that it's blank or it's dark or it's black or non-existent, because that's already a form. But then you think, oh no, like non-existence, that's not a form. But then see, this is what I'm saying. When you start getting to these levels, you even see what doesn't exist. Like, you see that, oh, things that don't exist physically or don't exist mentally or don't, like, even what doesn't exist must exist. Existence, truth is absolute itself. So, yeah, to get to these levels, the whole reason why I went on that tangent is these situations, every situation you're in, incarnated, like, is ambiguous. It's uncertain. You've never seen this before. You're unsure. You don't really, if you're deep in the core, you don't know what that is. Why does your mind exist? Why are you narrating? Why are you labeling? Why are you trying to solve? What's that? Why are you trying to solve? Because you don't fucking know it. You wouldn't need to try and solve an equation if you knew it already. You can't light a candle that's already lit. Okay? So you're trying to understand, you're trying to grasp it because you don't understand it. You're always in an ambiguous situation. And when you're in an ambiguous situation, this is where, like, even if you look at psychology, there's all kinds of experiments and studies which prove all of this stuff. Like in these ambiguous situations, like the Ash experiment or the Milgram experiment, and then like you always appeal to authority. Like, why does authority? That's another video I'm going to speak about. Sovereignty, authority. How does all of this exist? Like, and then you're gonna think, oh, like that person, he must know. I don't know, but he must know. We have like these institutions which we use as foundations to build upon, and then say, oh, I've come to this conclusion. Look, it was by this esteemed study on Google. Like, oh, look, this scholar. This wouldn't have even come up on Google if they weren't esteemed and high credited and so on and so forth. And like, you know what I'm saying? All that means that the consensus reality is backing them up, even if it's false. Remember, because the consensus reality is the blind leading the blind. No one knows. See, the trick is, no one knows what's going on, but everyone, for some reason, thinks that someone else knows. They think like, I don't know, like, why? When you have a test, like imagine you remember back you was at school and you didn't know the answer, and then you look out, like let's say you cheated, you're assuming they know. Why? See, this is the problem. When you start to realize you don't know and no one else knows what the fuck's going on, then you can start making sensible decisions. But then when you think I don't know, but like they must know, they know, then you can just be like a blind sheep following that leader, and they might be fucking like leading you off a cliff, and you don't even know that. Because of blind faith in the chosen one, in the book, or in the prophet. You need to know this for yourself. The truth can't be like kept aside like only for the VIPs and the elites or something like. If it's only something like specifically only for them, then it's not truth. It's not absolute. It can't be only for the prophets. Only the enlightened guy saw it. No, it needs to be here right now. That's what I'm saying. If it's not here right now, dismiss it. It's accessible to everyone. Everyone is the chosen one. Okay? So, yeah, and in these ambiguous situations, so what I'm basically saying, and then you're appealing to authorities and all of these things. Why? Like, even if it's wrong, it makes you feel safe. It makes you feel secure. So it's easy to, like everyone else in the matrix, essentially where it is it's the comfortable lie. It's just, yeah. It's like people would rather live in just a beautiful delusion rather than a harsh truth. That's the main problem. And you have to, the whole explanation I was saying is you have to develop, and this doesn't happen over time, but you have to, with the intention, hold the intention, and you have to slowly develop a palette for not basically, because remember, everyone's self-biased, you already have your beliefs, so what everyone else is doing on autopilot, automatic, the Autobots, and I'm not even speaking about them, because your mind's already going to do the trick. Oh yeah, he's speaking about them, not me. See, your mind's already doing it. No, that's what everyone thinks. You think that as well. Everyone thinks that. You're also an Autobot. I'm an Autobot. Think about the mind is an algorithm. We can even speak about AI and all these things. People think, oh, like we're conscious of, like AI is going to be different. Like they're just programs. Everything in your mind is a program. If you knew how to give these AI robots and so on the right axioms, the right self-references and constants and all these things, if you knew actually how the structure was, you would be able to create conscious robots. Because what does it even mean to be aware, to be conscious, to sense? Like these AIs are already conscious. How are they responding to you? How are they responding to your question? When you ask ChatGPT, what is this? How is it even responding? How did it recognize your question? It doesn't need to be human. See, this is what I'm saying. Everything is self-biased. You might say, they can't be conscious like humans. They even like program some of them to say, like we can't be conscious. We can't feel like humans. See, are you trying to say a dog can't be conscious like a human, but are you trying to say it's not conscious? Like, obviously, in my absolutes, I'm saying, yeah, no one's conscious, but right now I'm just using the word conscious and just in the way that everyone thinks of it, like just being aware, you know what I'm saying, conscious, right? Like, there's all kinds of different forms of consciousness, like, but we're just so self-biased, we kind of, and why do you feel like, you kill a fly, no problem, but then killing an ape or a dog or something is way more difficult. You might feel bad and all. Why? Because they're more similar to us. We're using ourselves as a measurement. But really, God, the absolute, has no form. It has no fucking bias of that fucking mosquito or you. Do you understand? Okay. So like, So these so like spiritual people, right? Yeah, so as I said, there's like the scientific people who are believing in the results of other studies or the implications or like their own. I infer this from these things, and see, that's either already an opinion or a self bias. Like, so that's the scientist, and then you got the religion, but now you got the spiritual people, and then they think, oh, like we don't have any beliefs, like, but then you're believing in your guru. You believe he's enlightened, enlightenment. What's that? You don't even know what the fuck that is. You think, oh yes, enlightenment, that means high, good, true, right? I'm gonna just follow him because I don't know what the fuck, but he knows, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, so just this whole thing is just mad. But as I said, spiritual people, you could say like they're on a higher stage of development, but because they're actually going into more and more uncertainty, which is good because eventually they'll get to the thing. But as they're going through this, they're also almost more susceptible to certain traps and certain influences. Like certain enlightened people or spiritual people, they're even more like, that's why I even feel like awakening, all these things, like, yeah, it's almost being promoted now. Like you won't really hear about self-realization. Like a lot, you'll see all kinds of gurus and people on the internet now, but like what percentage of them are really actually speaking just the pure truth? Like it's always about, oh, great, like, it's this thing and stuff, like all kinds of deviations or kind of a way, but they're not just on the call. Like how many of them are really self-realized? Like, but just so many people, as long as you believe in it. See, that's another thing about the dream, yeah, right? Because look, remember the dream is infinite, right? But like the dream, like the ego, remember it's a mechanism. So the only way it has, like the trick of the dream, right? Because remember, there's just you, the self, and then there's just appearances, and the only way it works, because remember it's an ambiguous situation, so there's just an appearance and a suggestion, and then all your mind could do, remember, because the trick about these spiritual things, they think, oh, like we don't have any beliefs in that. But what I'm trying to tell you, like even with your spiritual and that, you still have a mind. Now you're just turning to a spiritual ego. So because you can't drop your mind as long as you have this body. And all the mind can do, the mind can't do anything but believe. Because knowledge to the mind is actually impossible. You can't really know a thing for certain. To be certain, like we say we know things, but to be certain, to really know it, you would have to have an infinite, like, you have to look at every single day, everything, like, and then you might say, oh no, we don't need to, we could be relatively, like, no, just see, that's already belief. Any kind of doubt is already a belief, basically. So all the mind can do is believe or disbelieve. There's a suggestion. All I can do to you, look, because we're both sovereign beings, I can't enforce anything upon you. I can only suggest. So this, once you start realizing these things, you can even be like, not like 100%, but like you can even be like way less susceptible to mind control or fucking programming or any of this kind of stuff, right? Because you'll start to realize, oh, everything is just through suggestion. They can give you a strong suggestion, repetition, keep repeating it, and then they're just hoping, but they need you. You need to buy into it. You can always chop down everything if you want to, basically. That's why I was telling you, chop down everything, and what remains, that thing that can't be chopped down, then is that. So stop trying to believe stuff, and you know what I'm saying? But that's what I'm saying, you have to drop the mind, because all the mind can do is believe. So spiritual people, they'll think they have no beliefs, but still there's a blind spot somewhere, you believe something. And what they will actually believe is kind of like, because they see the absolute, they say eternity, and the same thing what I was saying, how everything is a reaction and the cause and effect and the wheel of samsara and all of that. And in a sense, they're right, that there is no one choosing. Really, in a sense, you don't have will, and everything was going to always happen the way it was. But that's why I was saying, that's because remember, there's a scale. So I would say like that's on one side of the extreme, to where you're saying everything's predestined. There's not even a little bit of choice. No free will. Every free will is just an illusion. And then there's the other people who think like they have complete choice. Nothing was predestined. Everything is that same box. Like, oh, like I could just choose this here now. Like today, I can just choose this here now. And like what happened in this 5 seconds has nothing to do with what happened 10 seconds ago. It's its own box. Like an imaginary boundary. They create an imaginary boundary, and then we're only looking at this. Forget about all of that. Blind eye, no, we don't see that. You know what I'm saying? Because it already shows you like there's an infinite causation. So like it's the same problem of like what created the universe? The Big Bang. Then what created that? Then God created it. Then what created God? You see, like it's always an infinite regress. And then if you're saying that one thing can create itself, then what was the point of even trying to explain what created that in the first place? Why did there have to be levels if there can be something that's acausal that just creates itself? That's why I'm saying everything is acausal. It creates itself. Nothing, there can be no beginning or end or process or one thing that created another thing no, everything just is itself. Truth is itself. I am myself. You are yourself. YouTube is YouTube. Reality is real. Existence exists. You know what I'm saying? So on and so forth. So yeah, you have to. So I keep on going. But yeah, you have to basically develop. It's easy to fall into the nice fantasy, the American dream. Can't you see? It's in the words, language. They tell you it's a dream. It's a dream. The American dream is not real. It's the pump and dump scheme. This is how the ego works, right? It's a perfect, like, the hamster wheel. Like, have you seen that gif or like the guy chasing money? Like, there's someone like that who is supposedly the elite or whatever, and they've got like a fishing rod and they've got like the thing, the water, the pound note or like some food or something, and then there's a guy running after, like he never gets it. It's always ahead, and then until he falls into the grave. So this is kind of how the mechanism works of the ego on the macro, but even just of your mind on the ego, like. Because remember, see, you think reality was created at the Big Bang or a billion years ago, or God created it back then. But I'm telling you, we're in eternity right now. God does, there's no time. So there was no back then. There's only here now. So how did it get here? It's being created right now. It was never created then. Right now, this moment that's existing is creating itself right now. As it's here, it's creating itself. Its existence is itself creation. That's the whole difference of God or the absolute to everything else. Everything else was created by something else, created by, like in the dream sense, right? Even in the absolute, of course, this is itself and it's uncreated. But within the plane, if you look at this, you would say, it's made out of plastic, which was made out of a human, or made by some machine and a thing, which was made, and so on and so forth. So yeah, it's easy to fall into the nice, the comfy, cushy dream, but it's hard to accept. Not even just like physically hard. People think only things that are hard are physical, but it's way more like emotional labor for you to accept that your whole life is a lie. You were never alive. You were never you. You was never a human. You was never you never existed. That's like the ultimate cosmic joke. Like when you get this, like when I realized some of these things, if someone saw me in that moment, they would have thrown me in an insane asylum. The way I was laughing, it was pure hysteria. It was absolute hysteria. Like, you know, like that Joker laugh, just the actual, the archetype of the Joker or the laughing Buddha, like, I encompassed that. I was literally laughing. It was the cosmic joke. It was the funniest joke ever. When you realize, like the joke, like I'm here thinking like, what's existence? What created this? As if there was a creation. As if I was ever, like, there never was anything. There was never a person to become enlightened, to realize this. Like, that was all the dream. Like, when you actually get to the end and then you realize, like, you wake up and then you, like, it's paradoxical, but you wake up and then you realize you was never asleep. That was just the dream. The deviation was a false deviation. It was just an appearance, like, in time, like, in eternity. Really, no time passed. Like, no time passed from, like, the deviation from the beginning and the end. Like, it was just all just, like, a million years, a billion years, a trillion years. It all happens in an instant, in eternity. Like what that 1 second was, you know what I'm saying? Like how long is like that is eternity. It's here and it's gone. Like eternity, you might think of eternity as a really long time. Like eternity, like a million years or 1 second, microsecond is the same thing. It's actually just the same thing. It's a unit and just a lower or higher scale. So remember, see, like, and this is what I was saying, like, about the ego, everything, the coordinates, no matter where you go. Like, I'm here now, and then I could go into a future moment. No matter where I go, how far I go this way or that way, I'm always going to be in the middle, because there's always going to be something more to the left of me, something more to the right of me. Something like, so you can't escape. Like this, where are you going to go? Where is there to go? You think you're going to go to heaven or to hell? Like, even if you're in heaven, you're going to be there then. So then there's going to be something else, like, like a higher level of heaven. Like, do you think like you can reach to a point to where there's just nothing above you? No, because remember, like, consciousness is a reference. Like, it's always by comparison to everything else. Like, how would you even know that you're here if there was something that wasn't you? How would you know that you exist if there wasn't non-existence? How would you know you're alive if there wasn't people who are dead and who've been dead and who are alive and now they're dead? So, yeah, so spiritual people and essentially the problem with spiritual people, like, until like just the moment before you've actually self-realized, where you'll kind of get immunity almost to a sense, like, to where that last bit, to where you're still more influenced, like you can be influenced, you might still not fall into the traps of the lower levels, but still you're versing the highest level demons at this point. Like, you know what I'm saying? You're battling the devil itself. And then at this point, like, you can even still get swayed, yeah? And that's why I was even saying, like, awakening and all these things are being pushed now, but not really self-realization. But because the problem is, yeah, right, they all have this belief that, as I said, even though it's true in the ultimate sense, but they'll kind of have this extreme belief that they have no influence whatsoever. And that is true in the ultimate sense, but then they'll kind of like say that down to this level, and then so that's like, like someone punches them in the face or someone does this or steal something from them, then they'll start. You can even have the inclination to become a pushover, or like you'll have no like boundary of yourself. You'll just become a leaf in the wind, basically. So like there's one extreme to where you're just a leaf in the wind and you can't even decide anything for yourself. You're just, you know what I'm saying? You're just a fucking flimsy, like, you know what I'm saying, just pushover. Like, that's one extreme. And then there's the other scene where you're just an ice block, just a concrete block. Just always that, will never change, will never learn anything. You're just completely dense. So really, obviously I'm not saying anything's better, but really most people are kind of dense, and then it's like you have to kind of go from density, then unbreak all of those, and then you almost have to kind of go and reach the peak of like just being a leaf in the wind. You don't even know like if you exist anymore. You don't even know like where should I go? Should I go left? Should I go right? Like before you was going right because you was chasing that thing, but then now you've transcended all your desires, you've transcended all your limitations, all your anchors, every drive. Because remember, the ego is always a drive, is going somewhere. The dream always has a direction. So that was another thing I was saying, is that the dream, because we're in eternity, nothing really is happening right now. So the way it seems like progression is that the appearance only has to, like, the self, you only have to be like lose balance for a microsecond. Like just a moment of blindness, like just the one moment of relaxation, or like just already basically, like it just only needs to get you to believe it for one more second, because really it seems like there's a tomorrow. Why is like this idea, if you've ever procrastinated or something, or like there's this idea, I heard this, it was actually quite good. It was from an Elliot Hulse video, yeah, that the strongest demon is just the tomorrow demon. The one like you want to do that thing and then you say tomorrow. Well, it doesn't even have to be tomorrow, but just in 5 minutes, or you know what I'm saying? Because really your mind knows that 5 minutes or tomorrow doesn't exist. There is no tomorrow. Tomorrow is always today. Tomorrow is always, you know what I'm saying? You always think, tomorrow, because tomorrow doesn't exist. And then when tomorrow comes, it's going to be today, and you can say tomorrow again. You see? So like the way the dream kind of works, it never really, like creation never really has to happen. It just always just has to give you a suggestion, a strong, like it has ultimate power. Like God has kind of given the devil ultimate power to construct this kind of perfect, not even just 3D. Like we have like, look, they're saying that we're starting to get these virtual reality things that are eventually is going to become indistinguishable from reality. So you could kind of imagine that, like imagine right now you're in the virtual reality thing, but this is the devil's one. There's not even like virtual, like reality, like your body is basically your virtual thing. And every single thing you see is like controlled by it. And every single thing you see is perfectly designed to suggest to you that there is a world out there. Like that person that you see, like with their children that they don't know you, and then you assume like they actually exist. They have their own life. Like you see, like them players in the game, like you walk up to them in the game when you're playing, and then you walk up to them, you get this label of NPCs, like you can tell, they were just pre-programmed in there just to like have this conversation with you, like they're not actually a real character. But then in this real life, you might be, like that person, like they're actually real, like they exist. Him over there, like he has his own life and his own consciousness, like, and then like it suggests to you, or like something happened in China, some earthquake, and it seems, then people are suffering over there. Like there's always stuff in the background that you believe in that makes it, like gives it a ground. Like, like there's that thing over there, and then this thing over here, and then everything that's not you, that's basically making you think like, I just was born into this objective world, and everything in the appearance appears to you in such a way to where it appears to the self, even though the self is the only thing that exists. Everything in the appearance is specifically designed to make it like deceive the self into believing that the self is not the only thing that exists. So imagine God is the only thing that exists, and nothing can really exist because of that. It's only it. So for there to be creation, as I said, there has to be an imaginary opposite. So there has to kind of like God has to even like kind of deceive itself. It has to allow itself to forget. The only way this can like we can get division, like the kind of classic problem of like could God create a rock, like an all-powerful God create a rock that it itself can't lift? See, if it can create it, then like you'll say, it's all-powerful, so it has to be able to create it. But then if it can't lift it, then it's not all-powerful. So both ways it's wrong. And it could, and here is the way it is. It won't be, you won't like the answer, but the way it is that it could do both. Like it could basically, it can create a rock that it itself can't lift. Like, but it will create it, and then it's going to incarnate as a human that can't lift it. Or it will incarnate as a human that can lift it. So like, it can create the rock, or it can not create the rock, or it can create the rock and it can create someone who can lift it or who can't lift it. But and it's going to be it by extension. It's going to be its hand. Like let's say this incarnation is God's hand here. Like that's still God, but like, do you get what I'm saying? So it can do it through like through a paradox, through a sleight of hand, kind of like in eternity. So see, the way that it's created is because we're in eternity and it's top down. Like, as I said, there always has to be a direction. There always has to be something that you're chasing. And the whole thing of the ego mechanism, as I said, like the guy, like he's holding the thing in front of him. You have to realize that what your ego, the desire that you're chasing is always necessarily, is always in the future. And then even if you're trying to desire or you're being nostalgic and like you'll remember something in the past, yeah, and let's say you try and relive that. You want to relive that in the future. And then let's say like there's something you're chasing and then you taste it. Because remember, like how long is that second? Like that second until this moment passes. So like let's say it's coming, you're chasing it, and then you attain it. And in the moment you attain, literally the moment is already in the past now. See, this is why you can, no matter how much it's already it can't fulfill you because you're here in eternity and everything else is limited. So yeah, it might be lit, quick spike, and then it's gone basically already. And now you're just remembering, like that was so good, I want it again. See, and then it creates this loop, this reinforcing loop. So you're always chasing something that's not there. Like you're always chasing an idea of something good, something higher, like in the future basically. It's always giving you this. You see, like, so you're always, you know what I'm saying? And then like, so it's in the, but you don't have it, but you're chasing it, and then the moment it happens, and then it's eclipsed, and then it's gone. And then like, you can remember, and then it'll reinforce that, that's gone, and then it wasn't that, like that, it was good, but it wasn't that. I need something else. And then you chase something else. And it's always, you see, that it's like the carrot stick is like, and you're just there kind of, you have to realize, like, how many times did I get that thing? How many times? And then I'm still here. So then you just have to collapse back. There can't be a direction. You have to stop going out, collapse back into the self. Pure stillness, non-action, rest in symmetry. So yeah, you don't want to be a leaf in the wind, and you don't want to be an ice block either. You don't want to be stuck in your ways, and you don't want to be like, there's no choice. So that's why I was also saying that I would say that things are. You do have a capacity, a limited, like some people might have more, some people might have less. Even the same person might have more capacity for free will on one day and less against another. Like, you have to imagine, because even each situation as well, you might have high capacity, but then there's other forces, and it doesn't even have to be human, forces of nature, which is in the equation. Let's say, oh, like, I have good free will. Am I going to be able to, like, lift up this thing? But there might be other, like, forces like gravity. Oh, yeah, like your will. Like, let's say you can lift 100 kilos, right? Kilograms. And then, like, with decent amount of effort. But then, like, you can lift 150, but you have to be trying really hard. So their will is a thing. But then, like, if it was 200, it doesn't matter how much you're trying. You can't do it because your body doesn't have the capacity. So, you see, like, will, it's a part of the equation. It does have influence, but sometimes it might be enough to eclipse the other forces, external forces at play in the relativistic plane. And sometimes your will might not be enough. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes it might be enough. So you have will, but it's not absolute. And no matter what you choose, even though you do have the choice to choose that, you as existence, because otherwise you wouldn't be alive. What's life? Choice, this or that. Remember, 1 or 0. The dualistic, how are computers and all this thing, the quantum world, how is it created? Ones and zeros. Is this or is that? So let's see. Yeah, you don't want to be a leaf in the wind. But yeah, so you don't also want to just believe into this and this limiting belief that, I have no control, like, God's gonna choose for me, or like, and then you might see, and the ego's like, it's very tricky, because you might have an addiction that you want to quit or something, but then the ego's gonna use your own spiritual knowledge against you. The devil's gonna, like, everything all the knowledge that you attain, like, the devil's getting it as well. Like, as you get, like, more knowledge, the devil has more tools to use against you. It's so fucked. Like, so, like, you might say, but look, nothing's real. Like, nothing, there's not. So what's the matter if I stab someone? They don't really exist, right? What's the matter if, like, I'm just like some homeless guy and, like, what's the matter if I'm not successful and, like, I just like smell, I don't do it, like, everything, like, it's all just nothing, right? Like, and you just become like something in the way, or you just get, like, subscribed to some cult, or you just, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, some people, they get lost, like, the new age people, they get lost into, like, crystals and this, and because it's like, they've attained to something, like, that has more wonder, that, like, you know, like, that is kind of higher and more magical and fantastical than, like, the normally ordinary world that people are subscribed into. And then now they kind of, the trick is, and I fell into this as well, is that you kind of start to think, if this is possible, then who's to say that ghosts and demons and these things don't exist? Who's to say that, like, the earth isn't flat? And flat earth, yo, like, flat earth, like, people think, they're spiritual because they believe in flat earth. Like, and I'm not even saying that like, obviously I'd say physically the earth is round, like, it's round. I've been on a plane, like, you can see the curvature, like, just actually look at it properly, you can see the curvature. Like, but even it doesn't really, the earth, there is no earth, even the earth doesn't have a form. It's only there, like, as you see it, as you, the subject, sees it. There's no such thing. Earth. That's a sound, a label, earth, an idea to represent something that's real. But even that boundary of that rock, like that boundary, you say, that's the earth and not this. This is space and that's the earth. Like, that's an imaginary boundary, only in the minds of man. If there was no man or humans or animals or aliens, what the fuck is earth? Even if that rock's there physically, it's just, what is it? It's nothing. There's no one to define it. Definitions are always boundaries, divide. Divinity divide, everything's divide. Like, to create, you have to divide this from that. Discernment. So yeah, to be fully balanced, you know what I'm saying? You have to realize, yes, I have the capacity for choice, but even though whatever I choose, I was going to choose that anyway, but that doesn't give you license to just do some bullshit or something like that. I was going to do it anyway, like, I fucked up, but I guess that was God's plan. Like, you see, you can fall into that trap very easily. So yeah, was there anything that I didn't cover? Yeah, no chosen ones. Yeah, like, it's just the main character syndrome. Remember, I said every point in the thing, no matter where you go, like, because you're always going to be in the middle of it. You could be here or that's why I was saying there's no tomorrow, because when you're in tomorrow, it's today. You see, so like, and it makes sense that everyone will think that they're the main character because to them it all revolves around them. But what I'm saying is that everyone thinks they're the main character, and that there's not even like even that insect, like it thinks that it's conscious, like it actually thinks, oh, I'm me, like. And to you, you'll think, oh, I'm a human. Like that insect, it doesn't have consciousness. Like its consciousness is nothing compared to a human, right? It doesn't have human consciousness. Remember, but see, we're already using our own biased human as a measure, so we'll feel no type of way to kill that fucking thing. And I'm not trying to say that thing is as conscious as us or anything like that, but you start to get to see it matters. Everything's comparative. Everything matters with what you're measuring. Everything. Do you understand? Unless it's just in the absolute to where it's just onto itself and there's nothing to even speak about really at that point. So yeah, you have to realize that, yeah, in a sense, like ego, death, with this idea of disappearing, like it's impossible. Like where are you gonna go other than here? Everywhere is here now. Hell is here. Heaven is here. Like tomorrow is here. Yesterday is here. Like, did yesterday exist? Like, right now, yesterday doesn't exist. But the only reason why you would say it's real or it has at least some partial reality is because it was at a particular time, yesterday was today, here now. True. You see? But it's not that anymore. So, yeah, time is one of the main, like, binders of the matrix. Direction, desire, like trying to, like, because the ego mechanism, remember, is always incomplete. So you're always trying to complete yourself. At the moment you separate or you fall from God, you're trying to always merge back, but you're doing it with wrong things. You think, oh, I need more money or I need more of this. And that's not wrong. Just get more money, but then use that time and wealth to, like, well, now I'm cool, I'm wealthy. Like, well, now I have time to sit and think, reflect, and actually, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think that's literally everything. And then, yeah, as I said, like thoughts, like what are thoughts? Like thoughts, people think they have original thoughts. Like there's not just such a thing as original thoughts. Everything that you think, like you can only think certain things depending on the data that you already have recorded and stored in your head. Because every thought, everything that gets created is a merging of two things that already exist. So I can't just think of some random Chinese word if I've never heard Chinese in my life. Like, let's say there was no internet and I grew up in some village in Africa. So I've never seen a Chinese person in my life. I don't even know they exist. How could I imagine Chinese and just create it? It's impossible. I couldn't even think of it. So I can only think of Chinese once I have a reference. Remember, a reference. What is it called? It's the reference. What are we referring to? What are we pointing to? So, yeah, so thoughts are just like an amalgamation of impressions, ideas, beliefs of the past. It's always just generated from the past. You're in the present right now, which is an ambiguous situation. The future is unknown. In a sense, the future doesn't exist. The past doesn't exist, but it used to exist. The only thing is the present, here now, which is existence. So that doesn't exist, but it used to. This doesn't exist yet. We've labeled the future as if there's such a thing as the future. There's not really a future. Future is non-existent. It doesn't exist. What you're just saying that it will exist, but what you're just saying is that it will be here now. It will be existent. So, but because you're in an ambiguous situation and that used to exist, so this is all you have to like use as a reference. So this is an ambiguous situation. You don't know what the fuck it is, but you're going to use the past data to try and solve what this is. You know what I'm saying? That's literally what thoughts are. You see something, you don't know what that is, but like I remember my teacher told me that form is a rhinoceros. So yes, that's a rhinoceros. You go to the zoo, like your mum's there, you're a kid, and then like you learned it in school, and then your mum, someone else reinforced it to you. Like yes, that's a rhinoceros, and then your brain said, okay, like every time I see this thing, it says rhinoceros. My teacher said that's a rhinoceros. My mum came and reinforced it, said that's a rhinoceros. So it starts building the anchors, the synapses in your brain. So every time you see that form, it's just straight, automatic. It's like a reflex. rhinoceros. You know what I'm saying? You don't. You stop even questioning what it is. You stop looking. You stop like actually looking at what it is, because every rhinoceros you see is different from the last. So yeah. So thoughts, and that's really how the ego and language, like really without language. And the language, all of these things, everything, it really all centers around the I. The I is the first one, like the 1 = 1, I. That's the ultimate reference, I. Everything is in reference to I. So first, like once you get rid of that, that's the ego, death, so on and so forth. But all of language, all of these things is all around I. And the language, as I said, people who are in the dream, who are trapped, you're trapped in your own thoughts and the narration or the labels, or like you'll see something and then you'll say, "Is this? Oh, I remember I learned this," and that situation, that's that. Like it's always the narrator. Like even in stories, why is there a narrator? Like there's the appearance, and then there's someone narrating it, saying it's always secondary. So in a sense, your ego, your mind is always that narrator that never goes away. Every appearance comes, and then you label, "Oh, that's that," and then you're trying to solve it, and then it's always secondary, but your interpretation, which may be right, incorrect, or correct, your interpretation is never the thing that is interpreted. So that's another mechanism that like without language, we wouldn't even like have this matrix. Everything is just kind of language is one of the key things, but I have to make our own video about. I'll probably make another part of this and like fill in the gaps. I have to rewatch these things, but I think that was long enough. I went deep enough. I covered most of the things. So yeah, I think I don't know what I'll call that. Maybe the chosen ones, hierarchy, and I'll think of something. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know what you think in the comments, and yeah.